My parents kicked me out at 18, with nothing but a backpack and $500. They changed the locks on our house in suburban Ohio, and told me never to come back. My own mother and father chose my brother over me, and spread lies about me being ungrateful and rebellious. So the whole community turned against me. I slept in my car that first night, crying alone, while they sat inside eating dinner like I never existed. 10 years later, they showed up broke, desperate, and begging for my help after their perfect world collapsed. What I did next was my public revenge, and it changed everything. This is my story in my own words. I am Sarah Jenkins, and I am going to tell you every single detail, from the heartbreak to the hustle, to the moment I rose up. If you have ever been betrayed by family, this one is going to hit hard and keep you watching until the end. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in what looked like the perfect American family. Big colonial house, nice cars, family vacations every summer. My dad Richard was a partner at a respected law firm. My mom Linda handled the social side, throwing parties and keeping up appearances. My brother Jake was 2 years older and the golden child. Straight A student, star quarterback. Everything my parents bragged about. I was the quiet artistic one who loved sketching clothes and dreaming about a creative life. They tolerated it when I was younger, but everything changed when I started talking about my future. The fight started when I was 17. I told them I wanted to study fashion design in New York, not pre-law at Ohio State, like they planned. Dad slammed his fist on the table and said I was throwing away everything they worked for. Mom cried about how embarrassed she would be in front of her friends. Jake just laughed and called me the family disappointment. They grounded me, took away my phone, and tried to force me into their mold. I stood my ground, because I knew in my heart it was my life, not theirs. On my 18th birthday, I came home from my part-time job at the mall to find my clothes stuffed in black garbage bags on the front porch. Dad handed me an envelope. Mom stood behind him, arms crossed, not saying a word. Jake watched from the living room window with a smirk. Dad said, "You are 18 now. Time to grow up. We are done carrying you. Do not come back until you learn respect and contribute like your brother." I begged them. I cried and asked what I did wrong. Mom finally spoke. "You have always been difficult, Sarah. This is for your own good." I loaded the bags into my old Honda Civic and drove away in shock. That night, I parked at a rest stop and slept in the back seat, shaking from cold and fear. No one called to check on me. No family member offered help. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had ever felt. They did not just kick me out. They erased me. The first weeks were pure survival. I found a cheap motel for a few nights, then moved into a rundown shared apartment with 3 strangers. I worked double shifts as a waitress at a greasy diner, earning barely enough for rent and food. Ramen noodles, peanut butter sandwiches. I skipped meals some days. The loneliness hit hardest at night. I would sit on my lumpy mattress and wonder why my own parents hated me enough to throw me away. Holidays were torture. Thanksgiving, I ate a microwave turkey sandwich alone, while imagining their big family dinner with Jake as the center of attention. But something inside me refused to break. I started sketching again in my notebook during breaks at work. Simple dresses, skirts, jackets that felt like armor. I bought a cheap secondhand sewing machine with tip money and started making pieces at night. My first sales came at local flea markets. Women loved the fit and the story behind them. A customer who worked in marketing saw potential and said I should move to New York. It terrified me, but staying in Ohio meant staying broken. I sold my car, bought a one-way bus ticket, and arrived in New York with 2 suitcases and less than $1,000. The city was loud, overwhelming, and expensive. I slept on a friend's couch for a week, then found a tiny studio with roaches and thin walls. I worked at a coffee shop in the mornings and cleaned offices at night. Every spare minute went to my designs. I taught myself pattern making, marketing, and social media from free library computers and YouTube videos late at night. Failures piled up. Suppliers ghosted me. My first pop-up show had almost no one show up. I cried in alleyways more times than I can count, but small wins kept me going. A local boutique took 3 pieces and sold out in a weekend. A blogger wore one of my jackets and posted about it. Orders trickled in, then grew. I reinvested every dollar. No fancy clothes for myself, just fabric and dreams. My brand Sarah's Edge was born from pain. Clothes for women who felt kicked down but refused to stay there. Strong silhouettes, bold colors, with hidden details symbolizing resilience. Word spread in the fashion community. A rising influencer wore my dress to a big event and tagged me. The orders exploded overnight. I hired my first assistant, then a small team. We moved into a real studio in Brooklyn. Success was not overnight, but every late night, every rejection fueled me. I thought about my parents every single time I wanted to quit. Their faces when they see what I built. By year 5, I had a thriving online store, celebrity clients, and features in fashion magazines. I kept my success quiet from anyone back home. Secret success. I bought a beautiful 1-bedroom in Manhattan, overlooking the city that once scared me. I started dating, but trust came slow. My real family became the friends who supported me through the dark days. I traveled to Paris and Milan for fashion weeks, feeling like the underdog who finally won. Meanwhile, I heard bits about my family through old mutual friends. Jake struggled in law school. My parents poured everything into him and their firm. They never once tried to find me. That silence hurt, but it also freed me to build without their shadow. Then 10 years after they threw me out, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. I answered. Mom's voice cracked. Sarah, it is your mother. We need to talk. Your father and I are losing everything. The firm is in trouble. Jake made mistakes. Can you help us? I sat frozen in my penthouse apartment staring at the skyline. After a decade of nothing, they needed me. The underdog daughter they discarded was now their only hope. I told them I would meet them. I chose a high-end restaurant in Manhattan, so they could see exactly who I had become. They arrived looking older and defeated. Dad had new grey hair and tired eyes. Mom clutched her purse like it was her last anchor. Jake looked beaten down beside them. They hugged me awkwardly. Over dinner they spilled everything. Bad investments, lawsuits. Jake lost a major client and the firm was sinking. They needed a large loan to save the house and business. I listened calmly, then turned the tables. I showed them my phone with my brand website press articles and bank notifications. Their jaws dropped. Mom whispered, "You did this alone." Dad tried to backtrack. "We were hard on you for your own good, Sarah. We always believed in you deep down." I smiled and said the words I had waited 10 years to say. "You did not believe in me. You threw me away. Now you need the daughter you discarded." I had recorded the entire conversation. The next day, I posted a detailed video on my social channels explaining the full story. The kick out, the betrayal, the years of silence, and their desperate plea. It went viral. Comments flooded in with support for me and anger at them. Their reputation took a massive hit. That was my public revenge. This is only the start of the full story. In the next part, I will take you deeper into the daily struggles, the specific moments that almost broke me, the small victories that built my empire, and the final emotional confrontations that closed the chapter. You will hear about the nights I wanted to give up the friends who became family, and how I turned their betrayal into my greatest power. Stay with me, because this journey is far from over, continuing right where we left off. After that viral post, my phone would not stop buzzing. Old high school classmates reached out. Some apologized for believing my parents' lies. Others were shocked at how everything unfolded. A few relatives who had sided with them during those early years tried calling, but I blocked every single number without hesitation. I had built a new life in New York, and I refused to let the past drag me backward. The support from strangers online felt overwhelming in the best way. Women from all over the country shared their own stories of family betrayal and being kicked out young. It reminded me I was never truly alone, even in my darkest moments. Let me take you deeper into those early New York years, so you feel exactly how hard it got. The first winter hit me like a freight train. Snow piled high against the cracked window of my tiny studio. The radiator clanked and hissed, but barely put out heat. I wore every single layer I owned, including my old diner uniform, while sitting cross-legged on the floor, sketching new designs under a thin blanket. One night the power went out across the entire building. I sat there in complete darkness, with only my phone flashlight holding back tears. I missed the stupid comfort of my childhood home in Columbus, even though that comfort always came with strings attached and constant criticism. For a moment, I actually considered calling my parents. Then I remembered those black garbage bags on the porch and the sound of the locks changing. I picked up my sketchbook instead and kept drawing until my fingers went numb. That night taught me something important. Comfort is temporary, but determination is forever. My days blurred between the coffee shop job and the night cleaning gigs. At the cafe, I dealt with endless rude customers spilling lattes on busy mornings, and managers who watched every minute of my break. I smiled through all of it, while saving every single tip in a worn envelope hidden under my mattress. The office cleaning job felt lonely, but it gave me quiet hours to think and plan my future collections. I would mop shiny floors in empty conference rooms and mentally design entire lines of clothing, strong tailored blazers for women entering boardrooms after being underestimated, flowing dresses with hidden pockets, symbolizing the secrets we keep to survive. Those long nights built unbreakable discipline in me. A real turning point came when I met Maria at the flea market in Brooklyn. She bought one of my very first dresses, and we started talking. She saw the fire in my eyes and became an unexpected mentor. Maria introduced me to reliable fabric suppliers and taught me how to negotiate prices without sounding desperate. She showed me the difference between cheap wholesale and quality materials that last. Without her guidance, I probably would have given up after my first failed batch of samples that fell apart after one wash. We spent many late nights in her small apartment talking about dreams and struggles. She had her own family heartbreaks from back in Puerto Rico, and she understood the burning drive that comes from being underestimated by the people who should love you most. My first real runway show happened in a converted warehouse space in Queens. I scraped together every dollar to rent the space and print simple invitations. Only about 30 people showed up, but one was a stylist from a local fashion magazine. She loved the raw emotion in my collection and wrote a short feature about it. That single article led to my first wholesale order from a boutique in Manhattan. The day that check cleared, I locked myself in my studio and cried happy tears for the first time in years. It was tangible proof that I could actually do this. I was not just surviving anymore. I was creating something meaningful. As the business grew, the challenges evolved with it. Managing a small team brought new headaches. Inventory mistakes, where I over-ordered fabric that suddenly went out of style. Cash flow problems that kept me up at night staring at spreadsheets on my old laptop. I learned those lessons the hard way, but I learned them fast. Social media became my most powerful tool. I started posting my story anonymously at first. Threads about rising after family rejection and building from nothing. Women related so deeply that followers poured in. That community built my brand Sarah's Edge as much as the clothes themselves did. Customers began sharing how my pieces made them feel stronger and more confident after their own betrayals. Success brought complicated new emotions. I started getting invited to fancy industry events and felt completely out of place at first. Imposter syndrome hit me hard during those early galas. I would stand there in beautiful gowns that I had designed and sewn with my own hands, remembering the grease-stained diner uniform from Ohio. Then I would straighten my back, look in the mirror, and remind myself of every single obstacle I had overcome. The underdog daughter was now in the room and owning it. My romantic life stayed complicated for a long time. I dated a genuinely nice guy named Alex for almost 2 years. He was patient and supportive, but I could never fully let him in after what my parents did. Trust issues ran deep. When he started pushing for more commitment and talks about the future, I pulled away completely. My work remained my main focus and priority. Instead of building my own family right away, I poured that love into helping others. I started a small foundation through my brand. We offered grants, mentorship programs, and emergency housing support for young women who had been kicked out by their families just like me. Seeing those girls find their footing healed parts of my heart that nothing else could touch. The call from my mom completely shifted everything again. After the tense restaurant meeting and my viral video, they tried every angle possible. Dad left long voicemails with shaky voices, talking about mistakes and second chances. Mom sent text after text about family bonds and forgiveness. Even Jake reached out saying he regretted being the golden child and wanted to make amends. But their actions told the real story. They only remembered I existed when their perfect world fell apart and they needed money. I talked to my lawyers and set up a very structured, limited assistance package, handled completely through a third party. No direct contact, just enough financial help to stabilize their house and keep the firm from total collapse, but nowhere near enough to rescue their old lavish lifestyle. They had to face real consequences the same way I did for a decade. Publicly, the story spread like wildfire across platforms. Revenge and redemption stories like mine connects so deeply because millions of people have lived similar pain. Comments and messages flooded in. Thousands shared their own family drama. It became much bigger than just my personal journey. Months later came one final confrontation I will never forget. They showed up unannounced at my apartment building in Manhattan. Security called me downstairs. I went to the lobby and saw them standing there, looking even more worn down than before. Dad had lost weight and his eyes carried heavy regret. Mom clutched a tissue, her makeup smudged from crying. Jake hung back, looking ashamed. Dad spoke first. "Sarah, we are your parents. Blood is thicker than water." Mom broke down, saying she never stopped thinking about me. I stood tall in my own designed coat and looked them in the eyes. "You taught me the hard way that family is not about blood. It is about who actually shows up when it matters. You did not show up for me. I will give this limited help because I choose to be better than how you treated me. But we are not family anymore. Not in the way that counts." I turned and walked back to the elevator, feeling lighter than I had in years. The revenge was complete, not through destroying them, but through living successfully on my own terms and setting strong boundaries. My business kept thriving after that. We expanded into new product lines, including sustainable activewear and professional wear for women in male-dominated fields. I opened a flagship store in Soho that became a gathering spot for creative women sharing their stories. I finally found real love later with someone named Jordan, who respected my entire journey without trying to fix me. We built our own chosen family, grounded in trust, honesty, and mutual support. Looking back at the full 10 years, I see how every painful chapter served a purpose. The nights sleeping in my car, the double shifts that left my feet aching, the rejections from suppliers and early investors, the holidays spent alone eating cheap takeout, while imagining my family celebrating without me. All of it forged the woman I am today. I travel to Paris and Milan for fashion weeks now. I sit in meetings with major retailers. I mentor young designers who remind me of my younger self. And through it all, I carry the quiet knowledge that the underdog daughter they threw away became unstoppable. To everyone watching this who has been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most, your story is not over. The pain feels crushing right now, but your power is real. I went from crying in a cold car to building a fashion empire that helps others rise. You can create your own version of that success. Build in silence. Rise with purpose. Use that fire as fuel instead of letting it burn you out. The world needs your unique story and your strength. Thank you for staying with me through this entire long journey. Every detail, every struggle, and every victory. If my story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Revenge Orchid for more raw family revenge and redemption stories from real people. Hit the notification bell so you never miss one. This is Sarah Jenkins signing off. You are far stronger than they ever believed. Keep going.